Thank you, everyone. So, as I've traveled the world, I've done 3 education startups. As I've had the opportunity to travel the world, love to ask the question. Everyone has an answer. It's very universal. It connects all of us. Tell me about your education. People inevitably always answer with some commonality. Either I didn't go to college, or I went to Princeton for 3 years and then I dropped out, or I graduated from BYU, or I graduated from Stanford and then I went on to HBS to get my MBA. In all these years, I have never had anyone answer with the last book they read, with the last course they took, with I love learning about history. As I ask graduates, 30, 40, 50 years old, people will skip 30 years of their life and tell me the last formal degree that they got. It is the only way that we have to relate with each other about our education. And yet we don't stop learning. What is wrong with this photo? They look incredibly happy. So what is wrong with this photo? They are having a hell of a time celebrating the end of their education. And that is wrong. It is wrong that we put this cap, this finite end to our education. And I believe that as we move into the future of education, that we will move into a model of continuous lifelong learning. And at the heart of this is the actual credential. And I ask you, what if we were to kill the notion of the 4-year degree and would assert that the degree is failing us, the credential? And the credential is not the university. Universities happen to be degree-granting institutions. But if the institution were to stop issuing degrees, they would continue to exist. So university may or may not be serving us well. But I'm here to tell us that the degree is failing us. So as you look at some of these stats, so only 52% of college entrants will graduate in 6 years. 48% of all people who go to college will never graduate. So talked about the incompletion rate of the Moocs. Well, let me tell you some harrowing figures. So that is 48% of all college entrants. Do you know how many courses they consume annually that will never be given a credential? 20 million courses a year are completed in America that will never receive a credential. That's an incredible waste for those students in their lives, in their upwards mobility. It's an incredible waste for America. Of those who graduate, of the 52% who graduate, they face roughly 10% un- and underemployment and a 40% malemployment, which means they are employed but not with the use of their degree. Only half of students who enter college graduate. Only half of those who graduate will use their degree in their employment. It's all fine and good if it was affordable. But because the degree is it's the de facto, it's the only universal, ubiquitous signal that employers have for measuring our competency, it has enabled the institution, the universities, to raise tuition year over year for the last ever. At the same time, so while it may be true that there's a premium on being a degree holder and wage earnings, that for the most part is a statistic that is held up by older generations. So as you see high school graduates make X and college graduates make Y, that number in many cases is being held up by our parents. For us, that number increasingly is not true. And even if it is true, the wage that degree earners earn is falling. You take all of this together, and we are being squeezed out. On average, students today graduate with $26,500 in debt. Collectively, as a nation, we've topped $1 trillion in outstanding student loan debt. That number, there are very few things larger. It will soon surpass the amount of national debt owed to China. The degree is failing us. The dogmas of the quiet past, they are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. We must disenthrall ourselves of the 4-year degree, and then we will save our country. So what does this mean? We must jailbreak the degree. What I mean by that is today, the degree, it's the only unit, it's the only meaningful unit of education. If I take 110 credit hours and then drop out, I'm not 92% of a bachelor's. I don't have a bachelor's. Our schools, our institutions, our employers, it's a binary accomplishment. And it is riddled with inefficiencies. We must step back. Clayton Christensen, what he says is, I bet what happens is that credentials will occur at the level of the course, not at the university. So what would that begin to even look like in transforming education? Well, I think a powerful analog is to look at what iTunes did to the music industry. In the past, you had to buy albums, like it or not. Like all the songs or not. You like the one song, but don't want the rest, you still have to buy the album. When iTunes introduced a way to purchase just the digital single, what we saw was that the purchase of albums fell to the floor, while the purchase of the digital single shot through the roof. Similarly, as we empower courses as a meaningful unit of education, I believe that we will begin to see a chart in the consumption of education that looks much like this. And it enables and empowers so many compelling opportunities in education. If we can consume education course by course, it empowers us, it enables us to take the best courses from the best professors at many different universities. It empowers us and it enables us to be fluid in our learning, to come back to the university between jobs. Not for 2 years, not for a full MBA, but just to brush up on some things, get ready for the next job, satiate some of those curiosities. It allows us to take courses here and there to learn for the entirety of our lives. To that end, I launched a company called Degreed. What we do is we score and validate people's lifelong education, both formal and informal. So we score all of the courses that you take, both at an undergraduate and a graduate level, but then we also score and validate all of the other things that you do to learn. Conferences like TED, the Moocs, online courses, in the future, more and more open badges, books, media, articles. We score all the things that you do to learn, so that when someone asks you, tell me about your education, you don't have to look back 30 years to have a notable accomplishment that you can talk about. So Steve Jobs, it's been mentioned frequently. I'll end with this. Let me call this your uncommencement speech. Don't ever let anyone tell you that your education is ending, and never celebrate it. Remember that liberal art universities do not hold a monopoly on the liberal arts. We can learn everywhere. We can learn anywhere. We must learn for the entirety of our lives. We must never stop learning. Thank you.